There is an art to multi-directional sewing on the Bernina 880. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks with this and touch on some of the stitches that you have built into this machine, but showing where you can take any stitch and sew it in any direction. Then I'm going to also give you a reason of why would you even want to do that. So on our Bernina Stitching Cosmos online course, there's links below this YouTube video where you can learn more about it. You can watch 10 videos for free. We really get into a lot with all the stitches that you have on your Bernina 880. So here we are just on a regular straight stitch. So if I sew, I'm going the normal direction. But do you know we could actually sew to the right, we could sew to the left, we could sew at a diagonal, we could go away from us. We've got all different options here. And you're like, why would I want to do that? Well, how many times have you found yourself in an awkward place on a project where you have, for example, a pant leg and you're trying to sew a patch on? Well, without having to open up that full seam and flatten it out, it's really not easy. It's not even possible. So you can actually take off this table, slide an entire pant leg on the free arm of the machine, and physically sew a patch in 4 directions. So we do that by touching the I for information and then touching the symbol with the presser. For some reason, sometimes I think of that as an R, but it's a presser foot in any rotation amount. So you can actually quickly touch, and right now you see the stitching showing you that it's going to stitch in the sideways motion area, kind of down into the right corner. We do have foot 40C on the machine. That does come with your Bernina 880. So as you start to stitch, you're going to just notice that it's going to kind of be stitching down towards that corner. So what you're doing is at any time that you're sewing where you might be going in weird directions is you might want to have some lines on your fabric. That will help you kind of give you a visual guide to keep your presser foot kind of parallel to those lines so you can see. Right now, as I'm near the edge of the fabric, I can actually just use that, kind of keep that within a distance that is equal. So if the foot is kind of turning, or actually the fabric turns, not the foot, but the fabric's kind of turning, you can kind of gently finesse it back into the position. So if I touch here, now I'm going to be sewing back into this direction that way. So I can just keep sewing until I feel like that's as far as I need to go. Pick a new direction, any direction, but just also know that you can actually turn with the dials here and have every degree possible, even every half of a degree. Wow, I didn't even realize it's half. That's pretty finite, where it will allow you to go to any direction you wish. So whatever you pick. Now, I mentioned it can be done with any stitch. So let's just pick stitch number 8. That's a fun little honeycomb stitch. Touch the I, touch the place where we can change direction. And now that stitch is ready to stitch in a sideways motion stitch. All right, I still have more to show you. So let me go ahead and stitch this out just enough so you can kind of see. I'll let you realize that it's sewing in that diagonal direction. You should try this out on a couple of stitches just so you're familiar with what that feature actually looks like. Here's where I started, and then that's where I went, all without having to turn the fabric. So we do have this feature kind of integrated into the memory part of the machine. I'm going to just push clear. That's one way to get it back to normal. Let me just quickly, we've kind of done this in the memory video, but I'll just show you real quick here. If we had a couple decorative stitches, let's go big stitches. Why not? Let's go into the 800. So let me do something I haven't done before here. So let's say we have stitch 814 and 811. So I just put those 2 stitches into memory, but they don't line up. Like where one begins and the other one ends is not connected. There's kind of like a little overlap. But what we can do is actually we can just use the little knobs here. You can touch and drag it, but you can connect that so it will be where you want it to actually be. And this is the machine actually putting in the stitches that it needs, and that's why these little symbols here have been added, to get it from where it ends to where it needs to start. So it's actually shifted that stitch. Now the only thing is that where I begin and where I end is going to not be lined up anymore. So that might be something that you're going to end up with a stitch that gradually goes to the right. But we could actually finesse that back into some other options by combining another one of these down over here, maybe mirror image. You could actually create your own stitch, all with directional stitching, but without any math or such. If it's visual, you notice how easy it is to just move it into position. I said you can touch the screen and move it. So there's those stitches. So if I actually wanted to hook it up to the top here, I don't think I would, but just to show you I can, and then fine tune that into position here. Can fine tune that right into place. And there you go. That's my new stitch that I've just created so you can see what it looks like. So just to give you an idea, sideways motion stitching can be used and added to memory items, and it can be actually done in any direction just by, let me close the memory down and pick one of those stitches we were just on, and we could probably give that a little twirl to the side here, and we could stitch that decorative stitch out to the side instead of going straight up and down. So you pick. You will love this machine once you really start to explore all the corners. We do a lot of that with our Bernina Stitching Cosmos online course. We get into all these nooks and crannies and use all the features and feet that Bernina has to offer.